Hello, and welcome to episode 60 of the Blindsided podcast. Today we're talking about thermostats. Not really. We're talking about feedback loops, but a thermostat is a good example of negative feedback loop, positive feedback loop. So, when the temperature drops, that's a negative, which triggers the thermostat to turn on, bring it back to a certain temperature, and then it rests. And then once it hits the desired temperature, and then it stays there. And then as the loop of feedback, it gets triggered, the temperature needs to adjust again. And that thing, it works very well. It's a mechanical feedback loop system. But today we're going to talk about our feedback loop systems, our internal and external, that help shape our realities and guide us in our lives. Charlie Collins with the Blindsided podcast, and I'm glad to be here with you.
Yay. Hi, Charlie. My name is Brenda Hayden. I'm also co-host of the Blindsided podcast. I'm founder of Time for 10. We're an emotional awareness, emotional intelligence coaching service. We help people get to the exact nature of their disturbances and, relearn, unlearn, and relearn. So we help them deal with their conditioned thinking. There's 0 to 7 programming. We teach them how to unlearn it. And then we give them all kinds of new tools to navigate their new experience that they're going to have with life when they unlearn all the conditioned thinking and programming we got as kids. So happy to be here. Let me put my glasses on and open the chat so I can see who has joined us this morning. I missed you guys. Good morning, Nick. Good to see you here today. And there's people rolling in. I'll let a few more roll in. And I'm excited to talk about this feedback loop.
Excellent.
Yay.
There we go. And I've got to just make a little change here. There. So what is this invisible force in our lives? And does it need to be invisible? So it's funny because I don't know why I say it's funny. I wasn't laughing, but I was doing research and really diving into how this being aware of, obviously, but not being aware of, noticing that things are going in my life and I'm noticing maybe outcomes, but I'm not noticing how I got to that. And I'm not noticing how each outcome, Brenda, each cause and effect, each of that delivers us back in. It's a constant, as you always say, it's energy in motion. It's not just emotion. It's the way we're all energy. So it's always moving. My hands keep going around the screen. I know. I'm doing it. You can't see. I'm going up and around, but it's always moving. And I didn't know, I got stuck in certain parts of the loop, not knowing that even though I got stuck in an area, it was already moving. I couldn't stop it. It's a feedback loop. It's just, there's positive feedback loops and negative feedback loops.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Charlie. And what that brings into my awareness is when I'm not in the present moment, when I'm just kind of running, I'm in that loop and I'm just running and I'm not thinking about it, right? I'm just doing what I normally do. I get up, I take a shower, I go put the coffee on, I do my meditation, right? I go through this routine and I'm not even thinking about it. And here's what's dangerous about that. When I'm not present in the moment, guess where I am? I'm in my subconscious brain. It's like muscle memory when you're driving. Do you ever, you don't even realize you're turning when you're turning because you're so used to turning that way, right? Mm-hmm. I take the same route to work every day. I'm not paying attention. I'll look up. I'll be like, oh, I'm 5 minutes away from work. I haven't even been present for the drive to work. It's that kind of thing. And the danger with that is when you're in that mode, you're in your subconscious brain. Uh-oh, right? Uh-oh, because what's living in the subconscious brain? It's all that 0 to 7 programming. It's all of the past experiences that are sitting in there kind of running the show when we're not paying attention when we're not in the present moment. And I think that's where a lot of my feedback loops come from, is not being grounded in the present moment.
Mm. And it just, I think about a stereo, equipment that you want to drive inputs and outputs for, that's constantly moving. So you have a box that you could produce radio sound, or you could send a DVD through it, or a tape player. Some people might not even know what one of those is, but different sources. So what happens is each of those sources have an output. First, there's an input. You put a CD in, and then it spins and it's generating sound. So it has to go somewhere or you won't hear it. So I take another cable and I plug it into the back, because that output cable gets plugged into an input. And that input then takes that and drives the loop out to the speaker wire, which then shoots it all the way to the speaker, which then produces sound. And then that sound produces enjoyment or education. And then the cycle continues. And once I learned about cause and effect, once I learned about inputs produce outputs, I started to learn how to mechanically do things that helps shape the way you think about things. Like, this has to have, I think of this feedback loop when I'm working with things, like I'm working with technology and all. It's like everything goes in, has to come out, and then out might have to go back in. And if you ever had a microphone and a PA system and it produced feedback, that is a feedback loop in action. And that is, then you know how to adjust. You need to move away from. You need to turn down gain. And that's what we want to bring this to for personal, for development, for starting to be aware of, when am I getting feedback from the speaker system? At times it was screaming at me and I would say, shut up. Yeah. I don't want to hear you. I don't see you. And what you have to offer me is not important to me. I need to suffer longer. Thank you. But not at this time. But then, as you and I both know, Brenda, we did some work and we looked at cause and effect. We looked at things that really shined a light on the feedback loop system that was ultimately killing us.
Absolutely. Hi, Carrie. Good morning to Carrie. Absolutely, Charlie. So, sorry, I have a terrible cold. So when I think about the feedback loop, there are some clear triggers, right? There's some like clear internal talk that alerts me to the fact that I'm in a feedback loop, right? And some of the internal talk, the trigger words are, I can't, I shouldn't, I'll be happy when, I have to have that, I need that, right? They think, right? These are all the kinds of things that might go through my head that are indicators that I'm really not in the present moment and I'm not aware of what I'm thinking. And the thoughts lead to actions, right? The thoughts lead to feelings, the feelings lead to actions. All of that is tied together. What are some of the trigger words that let you know that you're in a feedback loop?
Well, you mean, what are some of the words that actually wake me up to, if I want to notice and be aware of? Because I'm in it all day. I think we all are. Everything is processing. So what are the things I know when I want to disrupt or not, or I want to take action to improve something? Is I feel tension. I feel restless, irritable, discontented at times. I feel angry. I feel I'm only thinking of me. So I realize that the cause and effect is starting to disrupt my presence, and I'm feeling like I want to start pointing fingers. I start blaming, complaining, and then I'm triggering a new feedback loop that I'm going down the wrong path.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Those are good ones. any kind of critical self-talk is usually for me coming from some other person from the past that's still ringing in my ears. Like my mom saying, "You'll never be good enough." Or I remember her telling me when I was really little, like, "You didn't get the looks, honey, but you got the body." So I spent my whole life, right, thinking that I was unattractive. So when I hear that critical voice is going, that's an old feedback loop that could lead to things that aren't good for me, right? And so one of the things that I do, Charlie, when I realize that what's coming in is not for my highest good, right? In other words, it's serving no purpose except I'm feeling bad, right? It's bringing me down the wrong path. Is I say that, is this for my highest good? Is this thought for my highest good? Is it true? How old do I feel when I hear this? Like, those are some ways that we can identify that these thoughts, these feelings, the information that's coming in, the story that I'm telling myself isn't from the present moment, and that it's not doing me any good. Because why would we want to entertain any kind of dialogue with ourselves that is not for our highest good, that is not going to move us forward in a positive way? I mean, one of the things that I've learned in this awakening process is it serves no purpose to be hard on myself, to be mean to myself, to not be loving, caring, and compassionate with myself. I need to treat myself as good, if not better, than I treat my best friend. I remember saying to myself, I don't know how many years ago it was, if I could only love myself the way I love other people, I would be all set. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. Yeah. To treat ourselves with the loving, compassion, caring, understanding, patience, tolerance, kindliness. Show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love that we often show for other people. We have to do that for ourselves. And we have to understand that if the thought is not serving us, then get rid of it. Swipe it by. I swipe by my first 9 or 10 thoughts on anything because it's based still in a lot of that stuff that I'm still clearing out. And I'm not only, here's the other thing I want to bring up too, Charlie. We have an energy system that goes out 8 feet. We talk about this all the time. We're spirit, mind, body, right? There's 8 billion people on the planet. The other thing I need to realize is a lot of times the stuff that's coming in isn't mine. It's from the guy next to me or the person at the other desk. All kinds of energy hits us and hits our energy system. It's not always just our own. And a lot of times I'll sit here and I'll be saying, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this way? I just had a great day. What's going on? And I'm blaming myself for the thoughts and feelings. And I'm like, wait a minute. That doesn't even feel like my thought, because it isn't. It's coming from somewhere else. Other people's thoughts and energies hit us all the time. I did a video on that. Of course, when someone else is thinking about you, you feel it. That's the whole concept behind, I was just thinking about you when the phone rang, because they got that information. So we have to remember too, that we're often taking in outside influences. And so we have to have discernment with what we're going to allow in and what we're not, what we're going to allow to trigger a feedback loop and what we're
not. So I learned that, and I remember being in a store.
No.
And there was a woman in front of me who was not performing and acting in the manner that helped me be happy.
Why is it always a woman with you, Charlie, in front of you? I've never heard you say there was a guy in front of me.
I'm just an example. And I decided to try something and think, you are just the most irritating. I gave this energy and I didn't mean it in the moment. I realized that I'm perfectly happy no matter how that person responds, gets through the line, counts her change, gets ready to pay. I mean, I got every metric going on. I don't anymore, but I would, I could hand her, here's your clean feedback loop. And if you do this, when you go through your day, people like me would be happier, but I don't. So, but I remember going, lady, your code is stupid. And I did this. And all of a sudden, Brenda, she turned around and looked at me. And she's like, "What's up?" And I went, "Nothing." She knew. She could
Yeah.
feel my negative energy ripping her to shreds. Now,
Yeah.
maybe I wasn't ripping her, but she could feel that. And I thought, oh my God, it does work, because I felt it. Like somebody is just blistering with rage behind me, or can't stand the fact that I'm slow, or something isn't going the way they want it to. And they're projecting evil thoughts.
Mhm.
And I can feel the tension, and now I'm fumbling more, and I'm nervous, and I'm like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Why do I feel this way? But I know now, because the loop is happening, and I'm now taking on someone else's garbage, and then I can stop it and say, oh, I need to stand in my space and not worry about how others are reacting to the way I am moving through my loop.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say it again, Charlie. I've mentioned it before on this podcast. When it comes to the subconscious, the feedback loops that are running that we might not be aware of. For one of my classes, for a final paper in one of my classes, for an entire week, I did a spontaneous thought journal. So I kept a little like police pad in the back of my back pocket, and I would just take it out randomly throughout the day, and I would write down what thoughts were running through my brain. And at the end of the week, I compiled all those thoughts together and found a pattern in my thinking. And the feedback loop, I found a feedback loop in my thinking. And I was shocked at what I found. It was a victim mentality. Like,
Yeah.
my food was late. Oh, of course my food's late. Of course it is. My card wouldn't work in the gas pump. See, of course my card wouldn't work in the gas. Why does this always happen to me? And I had no idea that loop was running in the background until I took the time to do that spontaneous thought journal and take a look at it. So now, as a result of that exercise, I'll do that once every couple of months. I'll take a day and I'll do a spontaneous thought journal and see what comes out. And it's just a matter of writing down your stream of consciousness thinking and taking a look at it. And where your energy, where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? So as soon as those things come into my awareness, which is all I do with a spontaneous thought journal, now I'm aware of it. And since I'm aware of it, it'll change. It'll change organically just through the awareness. It's that whole idea of, and I love using this example, like when I got my Toyota, I never saw Toyota Camrys on the highway until I bought one. And then I saw them all the time because it was in my awareness. That's how easily that works. Same thing with synchronicities. Like, the first time I started seeing like triple numbers, 333, 222, 111, whatever, on a license plate or a clock. Now I see it multiple times a day, every single day. Like, it's all day long. It's like I almost get tired of seeing the repeating numbers. I'm creating this reality for myself because it came into my awareness. So that's how easily you can change these feedback loops that are going on subconsciously, really simply through awareness.
Yeah, we all have a personal reality, which is coming from our personality.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we want to shape our reality to be, I want better relationships. I want to connect differently. I want to be more, what do you want? And relationships are a great example to become aware of inputs, outputs, the loop, that feedback loop. Because I've had relationships where I was making the call, sending the text. I was trying to make it work because I thought, but there was no reciprocal, it wasn't coming back. It was good connection. But then if I let it sit, it wouldn't come back. So I thought, okay, I'm not the type that's just going to do the input. I'm going to let that rest and see what comes from it, because it could be that I was enabling and I was the one, so the person never thought of it. Said, I'll just wait because I know he's going to reach out to me and we'll get together. But then you sever that, you stop the loop and move on. And then the next thing I knew, hey, buddy, I haven't heard from you in a while. And then I talk about it. Well, it just seemed to me that I was the only one reaching out Oh yeah. Oh, it didn't even dawn on me. Yeah, no, and that can change a relationship and improve it. But also, I've moved on from relationships because I'm not willing to be the only person doing the input.
I hear you. I hear you on that. I have a little bit of a different take on that, if you don't mind me sharing it.
I could always quiet you if I don't like it.
Yeah, if you don't like it, you can tell me. You can just shut down my screen.
Go for
There's
it.
a control board there. I have a little bit different take on that. If I'm uncomfortable with someone else's behavior in a relationship, if I'm giving more than they are and I'm feeling like I'm getting the short end of the stick, which is very rare that happens because I don't look at relationships like that. But I will ask for my needs to be met. And if they can't meet my needs, then that's a whole nother conversation. If they're like, oh, I can't do that. Or, but the other thing is if I'm getting something out of the relationship, some people are just not wired. Like I don't attach meaning to people that aren't putting in as much as I am. Like if I'm doing all the calling or I'm doing all the reaching out, if I'm enjoying that, if if it's bringing me joy, peace, happiness, I just continue doing it and I don't attach meaning to that they're not doing it. My kind of my baseline is if they don't like me or want me reaching out, they'll tell me. Otherwise, I just be me, because it's people, everybody's different in how they communicate and how they resonate and how they engage with other people. So I kind of just focus on what I need, which is what you did. You set the boundary for yourself because that's how you relate, and you are 100% right in wanting and having your needs met. I'm just more verbal about it today than I was, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I had some experiences with people where the obvious wasn't verbalized, and it bit me, and it came back and bit me. So now I just verbalize what my needs are very clearly. Or I set healthy boundaries.
And I hear you, and I'm just in this podcast, and when I work with people, Brenda, I want to raise awareness to this looping system that we're shaping, which is shaping our reality, which is just passing by. I don't see it. And you said it earlier. You said, and then we fall into the blaming, complaining, rationalize, justifying, excuse making, and defending. And then, we all fall victim to the belief that we are less than, that this card always happens to me at a gas station. I push it in, and so I got to walk in, and the guy says, "Oh, it's not your card. It's that reader. I'm sorry. I meant to hang a sign letting people know, but I will go do it now that you've reminded me." Even though he did that, I still, I don't care what he says. It's still me. It's always me. It's always my card. All this happens to me. And what's going to happen when I trigger that loop? I'm going to go out and look for that all day long. All the things that aren't going to work. Yeah. And then I'm going to get them. And they will just pile up. And then I will, I don't know. I've triggered this. I don't know that's the guy or the thought process. I don't know I am the person shaping my reality until I do. Yeah. Until I get a coach. Until I hit a bottom and I get frustrated. Until I ask for help. And then when you were sharing in one of the last times, you just kept asking questions over and over. And those are the best questions, the best coach, the best sponsor, mentor. They ask the right questions. And they probably are getting them delivered to them because the loop is happening. The person is sharing. The energy is coming in and the questions are getting asked. And then here we go as it keeps moving towards a better outcome.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I want to comment on, I had a situation this week working with somebody who was very much stuck in a victim feedback loop. This happened to me. That happened to me. This person did this to me. This person did that to me. I don't have this now because this person did that. And there wasn't any kind of indicator that this person was ready to look at
Yeah.
their part in it. How, here's a good question. How did I put myself in a position to be hurt? How did I contribute to this circumstance? Where did I play a role in this particular outcome happening? And I think people forget that, we get so comfortable in our feedback loops that things should work a certain way. They should be a certain way. I've been doing it this way my whole life. This has been the outcome I expect to get, that they don't recognize when they're putting themselves in a position to be hurt. For example, by setting an expectation, by continuing to say yes when they really mean no, by using a substance or food addictively, right? Taking more medication than they should be taking, right? Lying, like even a white lie. Well, it's okay to just, I didn't want to hurt their feelings, or I didn't want to tell the truth. Like, no, when you start to lie, you get in a habit of lying. It's not okay to lie. It's not okay not to be your authentic self, right? All of those things are blocks and barriers to authenticity, to being in the present moment, to being who you really are and what you really are. And habits. I think we need to talk a little bit about habits. Just because it feels safe, right? Just because you know the outcome of behaving or doing something in a certain way doesn't mean it's actually good for you or right. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And all of those things have to do with the feedback loop. In a society, in a structure, we live in a structure where we're surrounded by fear. I mean, now there's tariffs and we're running out of goods, and world economies are being affected by decisions our country is making. So everybody's nervous about what. There's so much fear, right? That people kind of cling to the things they know, they find comfort in. Well, I know this works and I'm going to be okay if I do this. And it might not even be good for you to be doing that. And so, one of the ways that we try and navigate fear is by doing the things that we know, that we feel safe in, the comfortable habits, even if the habit isn't good. And we've talked about that before. And that too is a feedback loop that needs to be challenged.
Yeah. And they're all around us. And I can see them in the environment, in the home, in the nature, the things around my property. There's areas of the woods that I have never done anything to. It just all dies. It looks gross. And then it just comes back and it's thriving. Yeah. It doesn't need fertilizer. It doesn't need anything, because the feedback, the loop system that Mother Nature puts together, it's just amazing. And the problem is I detached from that as a young person, and not by choice, by thoughts, by suffering, by certain things. It doesn't matter what, but it matters that I now take charge. We talk about things like, if I'm feeling, there's a cycle: thought, decision, choose, behave, take action, create experience, have emotion. And it could happen like, boom, that fast, but that is the actual process. That's the loop that's happening, right? So I'm feeling this way. What in my thought process, what action, how did I end up creating? You asked the question earlier. What did I do to cause this? Well, how did I create this experience in my life? And then if I'm not feeling the way I want to feel, let me look at the loop system. Let me go back to where it began. Maybe the thought, or maybe the thought came because I was stuck in an emotion that I didn't take the time to realize. And that triggered my next very thought, which wasn't positive, which was more negative, which then fueled that downward emotion. And the loop can either be negative or it can start. It's like a wheel. You can be always climbing uphill and being tired and pointing fingers and wondering what is going on. Or you could start riding and coasting and being on a better free loop. It's like a wheel that has more balance.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say good morning to Rooted in the Mind. We're glad to have you here. And you know what? You remind me of, I did a TikTok video on this. You're reminding me of a situation I just had last week, right? And this is a perfect example of the feedback loop. So, I was in Hawaii for the last week. I was there for almost a week and a half. It was great. I went to a Paul Selig retreat. Paul Selig has had 13 books channeled through him. I think it's 13. I may be off on that. 13 books channeled through him, and I was going on retreat with him. And so I got there early. The retreat didn't start till Monday. I got there on a Thursday. And I'm at this resort, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful on Maui. And I'm walking down to the beach. And there's an older man walking in front of me, white hair, kind of a little bit short. And he turns around, and it's Paul Selig. it's the guy, right? My hero, right? So I say, hello, like really nice. Like he scurried away so fast. He could not get away from me fast enough, right? Like, so initially, right, as I'm walking, my feelings are really hurt. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? He doesn't like me. What did I do? All those little kid feelings started flooding in about my worthlessness, right? And this is how quickly it was turned around for me. So I'm in the beach, I jump in the water, and God Source Universe, my guides, they're like, so this was the question. What kind of experience do you want to co-create through what just happened? What kind of experience do you want to have with what just happened? Like, I have a choice in everything that happens. I get to choose what kind of experience I want to make out of it. And so I realigned, right? I took some breaths, called in my higher self, connected to my guys, realigned. The guy's super, super shy. He talks about it all the time. He runs away from everybody. He's not just running away from me. He's famous and he's a public figure. How many people probably run up to him, wanting his autograph or whatever any day, right? None of his behavior had anything to do with me. I'm not even a blip on his radar, right? And I was able to reframe that very quickly, get out of that loop that there's something wrong with me. I'm not loved. Nobody likes me. Right? Like, get out of that loop, because none of it is true. That's a little 5-year-old that's talking. That's not Brenda Hayden, 61 years old, right? That's a 5-year-old talking. Those days are long gone. It doesn't belong here in the present moment. And I changed the loop, right, in that moment. And I was able, because 10 years ago, that would have ruined my whole retreat. That's all I would have seen, right? I would not have been able to hear anything he said after that. That's not what happened. I had a wonderful experience. I had a couple of personal interactions with him that were really good. And I just let it go. I was able to let it go and get out of that loop.
And Brenda, how do we get to that space? And I believe that, well, I know from my experiences, I first had to write. I needed to take a look at this. How come I'm feeling resentful, or I'm feeling like a victim? And I'm not taking responsibility. I don't have the ability to respond to the events and feelings in my life. Instead of doing that, I just blame or I complain, whatever. So so maybe I write it out, and then it speaks to me. It's like, oh, and you ask, what did I do to cause this experience? Think about it. Years ago, like you said, you would have went that whole week. Well, first of all, you wouldn't have been there, but
Right.
But anyway, I know that feeling because it happened to me at a retreat, at a conference, and I almost got on a plane and came right home because all the old "I don't belong here" came back because of something that happened to me. But actually, it happened because of me. It didn't happen to me. So because I took the time a while back and I sat with a mentor and a coach, and I went through the things and I didn't do it with, I'm so stupid, what's wrong with you? I did it with, wow, I noticed that I'm thinking of me. I want things to be a certain way because I'm so afraid of what they think of me. And because of that, it's causing me to get angry. And you know what I mean? So I wrote it out and I took a look at it. I talked it out with a coach, a mentor, and I said, can you help? And then they said, well, try to reframe that. Maybe is it true? Did you need to meet that man on the beach and have him turn around and tell, oh my God, this week's going to be great. I just met Brenda. Instead of, this guy runs from all his participants thinking, oh man, I don't want to get caught up with these sickos. And that's where we want to bring our listeners and all, where you can do this stuff in the space it's starting to happen.
You can. And it's really making a decision, and you can make a decision. What do I want to attach meaning to, and what do I not want to attach meaning to? You don't have to attach meaning to anything, even somebody being rude to you. That's not about you. That's about them. I just don't attach meaning to things that probably don't have meaning. It's the whole thing that we talked about. I mean, we talk about it a lot. Who am I thinking about 98% of the time? Me. Who are you thinking about 98% of the time? Yourself. So how can anything I do be about you and vice versa? It just isn't. It isn't. Just isn't. That's the truth. I want to talk about I want to talk about the left and right brain cohesion and the, spirit, mind, body alignment too. When we take a minute to breathe, and simple breathing and grounding, you could tap on your thymus here to ground. There's all kinds of ways to ground. Simple breathing, belly breathing, you push your belly out and using your diaphragm, closing your eyes, right? All of those things that ground you in the present moment can help you just relax long enough to interrupt the feedback loop. Just to relax long enough. And really, that's what it's about. It's about relaxing. It's about letting your whole system come together. Spirit, mind, and body. That means your brain, your heart, and your gut, where all those neurons are, aligning that, right? And you can align that just by thinking about it, taking a minute, taking a breath, and understanding that your spirit, mind, body, and you pull all that together and you just relax. How important is it? And ask some simple questions. Is this for my highest good? Is it true what I'm saying to myself right now? Like, just those 3 questions, when I ask and answer them, it gets me right back to like, oh wow, like I was almost on my way on a trip there, a trip I don't have to take. Just simple questions like that.
Yeah.
How do I want to
feel? I need to be right.
Yeah. What did you say? Do I need to be right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who cares about being right? So what? I'm right. I do that with clients all the time. Okay, let's play the tape forward. You're right. And so they don't think you're right. You're not going to convince them you're right. You're right. Oh, well, what do you do with that?
I usually say, well, I'm left. It's about how important that is.
I don't ever get into arguments about being right anymore. I do just the opposite. I ask the person, what does that look like for you? Where do you feel that in your body? Tell me more about that. Oh, what is that? Show me. So I can be there with you, because I could be wrong and not know it. Happens all the time. Somebody takes the time to walk me through their rightness. And I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. Could be a learning
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Brenda, a couple months ago, there's other feedback loops. There's, I remember hearing once, feedback is the breakfast of champions, not life cereal. But anyway, feedback is the breakfast of champions. And sometimes we need feedback outside of us. So we would ask somebody, or obviously people offer it, that we don't ask, and it never works out well when somebody just jumps on us to say, you should be the way I want you to be. but we ask, and I've asked you, and you help see things that my loop was producing, but I was blind to, that I was not noticing. And anytime I start to go down that path, my fingers start coming out. where I don't take responsibility. I start thinking it's happening to me, not for me or by me. So then, and it's uncomfortable. It's not, I don't love it. It's like part of me is mad I let it happen. Part of me is like, why didn't I see this? And part of me is like, damn it, I failed again. And then I get over the little pity party and I say, with the help of a coach like you, how can I move from this to where I want to be? And then it's, there we go on back looping the right way.
Looping the right way. You want to hear a funny story? Here's a good example of, being right. So somebody said to me one time, can I use your Peloton account? Do you mind if I logged in as you a couple times a day and use my Peloton? Right. And of course, that's stealing, really. That's dishonest. But I said, sure, I'll let you use my Peloton account. So I let her use my Peloton account. A couple months later, I'm balancing my checkbook, right? And I noticed that Peloton is taking out twice the amount of money that it was a couple months ago. So it's billing me twice. Turns out I gave her the wrong account because I had two accounts. One was canceled and one was active. And when she logged in using the canceled account, it just renewed the service, right? And so I wanted her to pay for it. I wanted her to pay for it. And she said, well, why would I do that? You're the one who made the mistake. You gave me the wrong account. Why would I pay for it? And of course, initially I was really upset. I'm like, well, because you used the account. She's like, well, you gave me the wrong account number, right? So here I was, because I had agreed to do something dishonest, right? I wanted her to pay for it. She said, let's split the difference. I'll pay for one of the months, you pay for the other. And that's what we agreed on. But when I went back and I inventoried that, because I had to do a 10 on that, when I inventoried that, I put myself in a position to be hurt by allowing her to use my account. That's on me.
Yeah.
Like 100% of it was on me. If she wanted me to pay the whole thing, she had every right to expect that, right? I put myself in a position to be hurt by agreeing to do something dishonest by letting her use my account. Now, the feedback loop on that, wait, I'm doing you a favor, man. Like, how can you expect me, right? That's not right thinking. That's not, I should have said, no, I'm not going to let you use my account. That's dishonest, right? So, interesting story, right?
That's a great example.
Yeah.
That's a great example. And that's a good way to bring looping to the end. Everybody go out and do some loops. You know that hula
Positive
hoop?
loops.
You know that thing you do the body, you shake and it goes around? Work on that. That'll stiffen your core. That'll sharpen your mind because it'll force you to be present. You can't be thinking about, oh, what am I going to have for dinner? Boop, thing drops. I like that thing. I'm going to have to get one of those again. Hula hoop. What is it called?
Yeah. So I want to leave with the 3 questions, right? That, the feedback loops can be, negative ones can be ended and positive ones started.
Yeah.
If you take a minute and ground and you ask yourself some questions, is this thinking for my highest good? Right? Is it true, the things that I'm telling myself? And am I attaching meaning where there is no meaning to attach? Can I detach? Am I attaching meaning to it? Simple questions, grounding and asking some simple questions can either get you out of a negative feedback loop and potentially start a positive one, because you're responsible for your feelings. Nobody else. You are responsible for your feelings. Yep. No one can make you feel anything, right? What's the saying? They can only reveal something you're already feeling about yourself.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. So many of us walk around with rent-free baggage in our brain because of other people's words and actions.
Yeah.
And when we finally wake up to that, it's so freeing. We don't tire so easily.
True. All right, Charlie, it's been a great podcast.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who came to the podcast today. Happy to see you.
And we have some really good announcements coming. So some changes to the podcast. I don't want to spill it now, but I'd like to leave you with that. And then we will see you next Saturday.
Stay on demand.
Yeah, that's why I didn't move it. I forgot I didn't change it.
That's okay.
Stan was in charge.
Stay on demand. Thank you, Stan, for filling in.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.